So you were living in Chicago primarily when you were writing that? Did you write that here? Or?
Yeah, mostly here,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like to, I mean, did you have to sort of transport yourself mentally? Or?
Yeah, I think that in some ways where you kind of sort of grow up and your formative years kind of are the big influences on you. So like kind of growing up in Edinburgh, even though I've not lived there for a long time, I've lived mostly kind of over in the States here or Dublin or London. That is my kind of muse, and it's that's the kind of thing that influences me. I mean, I've got a book out I've just finished, which comes out next year, and it's set in Miami, and the two central characters are both women narrators, and one is from up here, up in the Midwest, and the other is from Boston, Miami transplant. I mean, it's an artist and a personal trainer, and so that would seem to have nothing to do with me, but it just like everything else, it just seems to be so kind of informed about where I come from. The characters so kind of informed about I just feel very comfortable with the characters.
Mm-hmm. And you were telling me earlier that you've already finished this novel that you mentioned, comes out, when did you say, the fall?
Yeah, it'll be spring next year.
Spring next year? And you're already on to another one.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your process, and are you just always working?
Kinda, yeah, because if I'm not working, I'm basically in a bar. I mean, I got excited by the idea of being a writer, because I thought it was just about sitting at a pub kind of talking about all the books that you're going to eventually one day write, the screenplays you're going to eventually one day write. But then I realised you've got to actually write the bastards. You can't keep coming back and saying the same, or different versions of the same thing to people. So I think so it's good. Kind of writing's good. It keeps me out of mischief. It keeps me out of the pubs. It keeps me kind of keeps me in the house, so that the wife knows where I am and all that. So yeah. So basically, I mean, I have a lot of things on the go at once. I've usually got a couple of extended stories or novels or whatever they eventually become. I've got maybe a couple of screenplays on the go. So I'm just kind of like a little butterfly, or a bee, just kind of sort of going between one and the other, and then suddenly one gets to critical mass, and you think, well, I have to stop fucking around with them. It's actually time to take one of these things and just lock myself in a room and kind of go, I can't just hover around coffee shops and chip at this and chip at that. It's got to that point that we actually have to write it properly and kind of do some grown-up writing. And the horrible bit where you kind of lock yourself in the room for weeks, months on end with people who don't exist, basically, which is what writing is, which is insanity, isn't it?
But then you go out with your buddies, like you mentioned, and you get a gash like the one on your
I get all these gashes on I was in London, and I kind of my pal John Niven was doing this, was chairing this event for me, and it was a big kind of huge kind of thing in North London, and after the event we went out drinking, a bunch of us, and we decided that for some reason we decided to climb the wall of this, where you could just actually walk around 2 minutes extra, but we thought, well, let's just climb the wall. And I climbed, I got to the top of it, alright, but I fell over the other side and kind of ripped, I've got these big scabs and scars all over my arms now. And Niven's got a big scar on the side of his face with a scab. So that was a kind of highbrow literary night
out. So I was reading some other interviews that you had done, and you mentioned that Russell Brand once said that things are really good right now, but I really envy that bastard in squat in Hackney. And you said that chimed with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a kind of incisive thing to say in a way, because I think anything you do in your youth is always better than any other time in your life. Even if you're getting completely fucked up and your life's gone to shit, you need something to help you cross the road. You're slavering sort of all over yourself. I think there's something about that time in your life, and I that's what Russell was getting at. He's actually in Chicago next week. So
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's on his tour.
But what does that mean for you, though? And is that partly why you maybe thought about bringing back Renton and Sick Boy, or?
Yeah, I think it is a kind of first love thing, but you get fond of characters that you've kind of done. But I think also that it's like having a kind of a set of tools in a cupboard, you know, and you think, who's the best person to do this? And sometimes you don't always know, you know. I mean, when I wrote Porno as a sequel, I didn't intend it to be a sequel to Trainspotting. You know, the first drafts of the book, the character, the Sick Boy character, was called somebody different, you know, and I realised that as I was working through it, this is your Sick Boy, 8 years on, and the character had gate crashed in, and I thought, why is this? And I thought, well, we're writing about kind of gonzo homemade pornography, and he's exactly the kind of person who would be into that. So that's the kind of, you know, so the tool kind of jumps at the toolbox into your hand sometimes. You don't often see it's there.
Mm-hmm. And had you wanted to go back in Stag Boys to specifically revisit the cultural era? And I mean, and Margaret Thatcher died since it came out. How did you?
I mean, Thatcher, she was really the, she's the architect of kind of Trainspotting and film. Without her, there wouldn't be any. And she created all the kind of negative social conditions, but also all the kind of the culture of kind of hubris and all that kind of allowed, you know, sadness. So I should have cut her a royalty check. You know, she really was like the first of the gang to die. You know, that kind of Trainspotting gang, you know, unlikely as it seemed. But yeah, I mean, you know, the interesting thing to me about Thatcher was that she was in power for kind of, you know, 79 to 90, which was about 11 years. And then she was kind of, she was knifed in the back by her own party. And she wandered kind of London as a kind of demented ghost for 23 years, you know, which, you know, twice as long as she'd been in power. And with nobody at all around her except kind of a few hired helpers and all that, you know, kind of going around like all these places of power, you know, like the Dorchester and the Ritz and all the places of privilege which she stayed in when she was Prime Minister. So it's quite a kind of sad and tragic figure in a lot of ways. But that's what happens, you know, if you believe there's no such thing as society. Society turns around and goes, well, fuck you then.
So tell us a little bit more about this book that will be coming out in the spring. It sounds like it's shifting gears significantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's my manager and agent in LA have got excited about it because it's American. I think, God, you've given us something we can actually take to a Hollywood studio and get a cast attached and film now, instead of all this fucking Scottish stuff that goes into it. So they're doing cartoons because they can't really kind of get anything that isn't sort of American. So yeah, it's just so basically it's about two women who become obsessed with each other. One of them, they observe this kind of car incident and this shooting, and it kind of draws them close together. One of them is kind of depressed, overweight artist, and the other was a personal trainer. She becomes obsessed with a personal trainer, and becomes one of her clients, tries to kind of lose weight. And she does all the exercises, but she won't stop eating. So the personal trainer kidnaps her and installs her in this kind of the penthouse of this kind of run-down sort of piece of real estate in Miami, of which there are loads, and basically tries to regulate her calorie intake. She has a treadmill and some weights in there as well. So kind of keeps her exercise regime, but tries to regulate her calorific intake. There's all sorts of kind of twists. Yeah, so just that thing about that weird thing that when you kind of kidnap somebody, you're in a sense kidnapping yourself too, because you chain yourself to a relationship with them and take responsibility for them. And it never works out, or it seldom works out the way you expect it to. But it's just, I think it really is just about kind of people kind of trying to reach out and connect to each other in a bizarre kind of way.
Yes, you say that thing.